I'm just gonna quickly go over the agenda for today as Marcus outlined it. So I'm not gonna say the times, but about 15 minutes each. Independent California reviews making chapters and why everyone should help make a chapter. Next will be Christian, who is going to introduce himself and his resume and what he's done. Then we go to Hal for an interview with Christian and discussing how to help, how IC could be helped, what we would need. Then Joel Payne interview Christian, and he's going to discuss Red State Pact and how we can get help for that. And then following that would be Hannah. She is going to ask, it's not on the agenda, but it's been put on the agenda, so I don't know exactly what she's going to say, but she'll be next. And then lastly, we will open questions for Christian, and that would be moderated by Marcus. So that's pretty much the agenda. So I'm gonna jump into, since Shankar's not here, Hal, representing Independent California. So could you please tell us a little bit about the chapters and how it's moving along, and maybe give a little intro for Christian to know what this is all about.
Okay. Well, welcome Christian again.
Thank you.
And all right. Right now we are in the process of forming what amount to regional chapters across the state of California. With an initiative coming for signature gathering, this is going to be vital in our efforts. We need to, we have a fairly strong presence here in Los Angeles, but to get the people collecting signatures and to basically start participating in various degrees of activism throughout the state, hopefully future country, we're going to need people in those locations, or in the critical locations around California. The major centers: Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Sacramento, Central Valley. These areas right now don't have a mass presence, which is kind of what needs to be organized to get there. Now, in order to get there, what we've been doing is we've been holding meetings. We've been recruiting people in those locations, good people like the people you see here before you. And in the format, let me say the Inland Empire, which is also quite important. Shout out to my friend Matt. We're recruiting chapter leads. These chapter leads will be responsible for the recruitment of people and more chapter leads beneath them to expand out. It's classic grassroots field organization. You throw the pebble in the pond, and as that works, as people reach out, we grow. To that end, we are now probably about 8 to 10 days away from the website coming, but I have not received that report back. I have not received a final report. Sorry, Marcus.
To that end, might I ask what's going on with the Yes California website? Because it doesn't seem to be available anymore.
Marcus?
I'll have to let Marcus field that one. Marcus, you'll have to
mute yourself, Marcus.
I'm sorry. The Yes California site is up. What was your question, sir?
So we were just talking about the websites coming. The Yes California website that used to be available is no longer available. I was just wondering.
Oh no, it's still up. If you go to yescalifornia.org, it is up and it looks fully professional and it's fully active.
Right. It might then in that case be a European. If you access yescalifornia.org, from my end, it says if you are the owner of this website, please contact XYX.
Okay, give me a second. As of yesterday, it was working. Okay. Yes, that's the case. As of 24 hours ago, it was up and it was fully professional. You informed me of a situation that I will be jumping on as soon as this meeting's over. I can assure you that.
Sorry, the deep end there.
Yes, I was not aware of that. It was fully working as of yesterday morning. So let me get on that. Yes, the site is up. Yes, it works. I know it doesn't appear that way right at this moment. Kind of awkward for me. Okay. Good point. Yes, the site is up. Yes, it is professional. You're going to have to take my word on that.
No, I've seen yescalifornia.org before, and that was my point. Obviously, you sent me various links to other independent California. What I loved was the Yes California website. It looked fantastic, so I was disappointed to see it wasn't there at the moment.
Maybe it's the hoster.
Let's get back on track. This is really about IC and chapters and conversation there. I'll deal with the website.
No, it's right.
That's the best answer I got at this moment.
Let's get back
Valuable conversation.
Yeah, and Al was talking about, just to be clear, the Independent California website that's being revamped right now and should be ready soon. So go on, Hal.
Oh, no, it's no secret. The current website is basically a placeholder. I mean, it's so the new site we're using the same outfit that created, I believe, Yes California's and the CIM site to build a new Independent California site, and it should be up and running soon. To that end, we are preparing to fill it with content. We have recruited what amounts to regional leads, and we are everything from the T-shirts to handbooks to our stickers and everything else are now created, approved, and we are getting ready to bring these out in numbers to this logo behind us. And like I said, it's like, you know, we've got our giveaway stickers to give out, and we are helping everybody get ready to start setting up to begin collecting signatures. That's going to be the primary focus for us, at least for the next few months. Having said that, we are also going to be increasing our presence with the various other activist groups. Rebels, what can you do? We'll be increasing our presence with the various activist groups and raising our profile. And as we enter into what amounts to the late summer, early fall, which in California is the protest season. That was almost special effects. We should be ready with the presence at that time. So that's basically my report on our progress as is. In the past 4 weeks, we've gone from we've basically gone from straight out activism, street activism, to developing the website, building up, codifying what we're doing, and building up the basically the trappings that are what are going to allow us to raise our presence and to get our brand well seen and well known.
So what you call chapters, I assume we call constituencies. How many constituencies or chapters are you looking to open?
I'm looking to open a half dozen in the major civic areas of California. Like I said, Greater San Diego, Greater LA, the Central Valley. We're looking at San Francisco, Sacramento. these are basically the political centers. These are also the areas where we are likely to garner the most media attention, which in contemporary politics is high on the list of priorities if you want to get anything done.
Mhm. You've got an interesting mix between grassroots but high media attention.
What's that?
So you've got an interesting mix between being grassroots but also looking for high media attention.
Yeah.
It's how every major campaign in California has gotten off the ground and achieved any degree of success, and that's Black Lives Matter, that's Refuse Fascism, that's the campaign to legalize marijuana, that's the LGBTQ campaign, and that's also, you know, with Pride. It's like I said, every women's rights, everything in California basically begins as a grassroots, small grassroots, then an explosion of people, then great media attention, and then something gets done.
And I just want to add to the chapters what we're doing with the chapters, the chapter leads. We each are setting up a Facebook page of our chapter to be able to talk. For example, my chapter is Hollywood. As you can see, it's the chapter in Hollywood. Hal is in Long Beach, so his chapter is Long Beach. But we're all setting up a Facebook page that looks similar, with the same flag, the Independent California flag, and everything, where we can, talk to our members, get more members, and basically also train them. And that's what we've been doing for the last, probably month, talking about how to train people to gather signatures, what they're going to need. So we made a bunch of videos for that we put up on our sites, and so people can come, that are interested in gathering signatures and learn how to do it and expand like that. So that's part of the attachment to the chapters also. Hal, you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
The only thing that I wanted to add to this, because that's basically the report. We are building. We have about 2 weeks left before we begin to roll out. On initial rollout, I want to schedule a training rollout, basically a pre-rollout, and I'll address everyone at the time when we find location and date. That way we'll get together, and the idea there will be to film every aspect of that, and we will use that in our training to all our constituents and new members over the course of the next year. Beyond that, the only comment I'm going to make is I would like to put it to my new chapter leads as a point of discussion for next Wednesday's meeting. Part of what we're going to begin to need to address, considering the things that are happening in the last 24 hours, may be security of individuals. It looks like we're going to start to see escalations, and that's. Marcus is looking at me like, what am I talking about? I'm not answering. Hang on, Mr. Williams. I'm not. I'll give you the floor in a moment.
Okay.
In the last 24 hours, it's like, especially in Portland, we saw basically what amounts to a right-wing Taliban, or not Taliban, but ISIS-style raid. Had all the trappings. Flags, pickup trucks, and heavily armed supporters of that ideal of basically Trump's America. This is a tactic they've used in a number of different places now. The reason for this is you roll in with big trucks with armed people to intimidate basically counter-protest. we're talking about setting up something that these people are, from past experience, I will say, they're not going to be terribly fond of. So we're going to need to be cautious on this. I want to get it, but I want to save that discussion for a smaller forum. Think about ways we can the places we can go that will help to keep our people safe, and we'll talk about this more on Wednesday.
Great. Before I get to you, Walter, I just want to ask Christian, do you have any questions for Hal for Independent California? Anything comes to mind?
So obviously, there was a couple of things I was looking at earlier. Was obviously the website. You've covered that already. What is so far the grassroots campaign that you've got going? You said you're reaching out to various volunteers in certain areas. Do you have a database of volunteers that you already have in place? Is there a
Yes.
Is there a list you're listing, reaching out to?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Do
do.
you mind me asking how large that is?
Last count, it was about 200. It was about 200, which will form the core.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go, Marcus.
Okay, thank you. Hal is part of IC. IC is going to be running the ground game. They're going to be helping. Hey, I want to print off a petition, or I'm looking for someone to help me. Who do I go to? That's IC. And the reason it's IC is that Hal's a little bit too modest. IC is well known amongst all the activists in Southern California. Resist, Antifa, a lot of the Trump supporters have met them. They've been on TV supporting gay rights. They've been on TV yelling at ICE officials in front of their homes, which got other people arrested, but not IC because they knew how to handle it. They've been on video twice harassing Trump supporters. So IC is really well established amongst the activist community throughout Southern California, all the way down to San Diego. And if you ask anybody, they know them. So when we're talking about numbers, it's important to recognize that while IC is technically a few people, maybe about 20 to 30, the network that they are connected with goes to all of the activist community throughout Southern California. Additionally, yes, California, I know it looks really dumb that our website's down and I didn't know it. I have no good answer for that. It was up yesterday. So you're just going to have to take my word that we're professional and we know what the hell that we're doing, although I understand this looks really stupid. Anyways, yes, California has a network of 400 reporters and 160,000 people on combined messaging through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and an email blast. We are able to get international reporters to talk about us. Recently, we just did an interview for the Express out of UK. Additionally, we can get the LA Times, Washington Post, New York Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Sacramento Bee to pay attention in one email blast. Because
How early was that Express interview?
I'm sorry?
How long ago was that Express interview?
That was a day ago, and it will come out in 2 days.
Okay, I was reading something from the Express this morning about you filing an initiative.
Really? Oh, dude, can you post that to the chat? It might already be out.
No, this came out in February. It was about you were to launch something on the 30th of August. Which
That's an old one. Yes, there's a new Express article. We had a Scottish man who's a Californian, immigrated here decades ago, married a Latina or somebody. He's hella Californian, thick Scottish accent. He has contacts over there, and he's all for California independence. He hooked us up with the Express, did the interview yesterday. It'll show up Monday. That interview is going to mention Independent California as the street warriors help people on the ground. All the way from you want to get out there with a mask to grandma is at home, doesn't want to leave, fears the pandemic. Someone at IC is going to say, hey, grandma, we got a chapter near you, and we will walk you through printing out the petition at home, signing it, and mailing it off. So they're going to be the hotline, the chapters, the coordinators, all that stuff, because they're good at it. And they have a huge network throughout LA and a gigantic reputation, and they've been on TV 4 or 5 times. So That's all on that California Independence Movement website page for them. I can resend you the link. All the links are there. Anyways, they're doing the ground game. Yes, California is going to be doing a lot of the high-level marketing game. And we have 160,000 people, 120,000 on email blast, 400 reporters. We can make the news happen. Additionally, we've already raised 3,000 to 5,000 new members who have yet to be contacted with instructions. So yes, California is going to be dumping that list of 5,000 new volunteers ready to go on IC once the IC website is up. So Hal is being modest because that's why we love Hal. There's a gigantic amount of humans we can direct on this. Hal is waiting strategically till he has all his ducks in a row because he's a smart man. When the website's up and the chapters are up, we're going to blast the hell out of it. And you'll see action within a day. I'll leave it there.
You mentioned IC are doing a lot of the kind of almost left-wing activism with obviously against ICE, etc. Would you say yes, California is of a different political kind of realm? Are they more to the right, or are they within the same ideology?
We have decided to not have those discussions and say, if you believe California values, which we can get into later, but basically a love of diversity and not Trump, and you think it would be better off on our own, then you're in. And we really kind of tamped down on what kind of California do you view, because there's a lot of different views. And so we're trying to keep it Big Ten. I wouldn't say we're very ideologically different. I would say it's more functional. IC is good at getting people excited and having them show up in the streets ready for action. Yes, California is good at getting the media to say what we want. And you're going to meet Hannah Miyamoto here in a second, in a few minutes, with CALM, the California Liberation Movement Political Action Committee. She's great at getting high-level policy thinkers to talk. So there's a activist arm organizing all the people, there's the media arm, and there's the high-level policy arm.
To further what Marcus was saying, what we're looking at is 200 activists. It's not a political, we're not talking about a political party or what have you. We're talking about active, on-the-ground activists who are going to be contacting local movements, who will be setting up to gather signatures and rallying people with, within the areas we were talking about. We have yes, you're right. We have a history basically of punching above our weight. We've kind of gone in where angels fear to tread. And that's been everything from bringing the idea of California independence to everything from the women's movement to Black Lives Matter rallies and marches to Antifa events, anti-Second Amendment, a lot. It's like, and we face down the Trumpers. We know them. We know who they are. We know the ones that come here, that basically come here from Texas or from Colorado or from the East Coast. We know the ones who are here to get sound bites for their own personal private, red meat blog spots. We know what these guys look like on site. It's because we've been around. It's because we've kind of been there, done that. How we got where we are is we've done our homework. We've been doing our homework. When we went to Huntington Beach, basically with the Brown Berets and faced down the anti-immigrant people, there was Antifa and Refuse Fascism, and they were all there. What we had done is we had already gotten the Trumpers' agenda. We knew who was speaking and when. We knew where they were going to be and when. We knew when they were going to march, and we knew where they were going to march and when. And we knew what the police were going to do when those things happened. So when the groups like Refuse Fascism and Antifa basically turned to us and said, you know, are you in charge? We said yes. And then we told them when the guy who was going to be speaking and when the police were going to move in and when they were going to march through our location when we had to vacate and when those police went to clear us. By the time they got together to clear us out of our location after the counter protest, we were already on our way to a nice little hole in the wall Mexican food place. That was after we had already had interviews with not only a number of bloggers from basically right wing and left, but we'd also had our people talking to ABC News, getting out our message. We have 200 activists. Last year we had 20.
Well,
We have made a point of punching above our weight. I'll tell you, it's like, in all modesty, I'm extremely proud of what we've accomplished.
So you should.
I'm extremely proud of all that we've accomplished so far. We hopefully will be able to expand this methodology out to these other chapters, and they will know when to go and when to stay and who to talk to and how to, you know, who's the local Black Lives Matter representatives, who are the local representatives of Antifa, who are the, you know, find out who these people are and work with them locally.
May I add something?
Of course.
Go ahead, Walter.
I think one of our strengths is our connection and background with the indigenous people of California. And also, if Mateo was here, he could talk about the efforts that are being made in Baja California and Lower California, that is now part of Mexico, who is activists there have expressed interest in joining if Northern California became independent. So those are two additional strengths of our movement. One thing that I would like to stress, in addition to what Hal has said, is the importance of all of us writing letters to the editor of our local newspapers. Anytime we can tag onto something that's being discussed in the local newspaper and write a letter to that, bringing up independence, even if they don't print it, it still is being read by the editors and can have some influence because they can see, they respond to what their readership is doing. So using every opportunity to write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper can be very important, as well as obviously the social media as well.
All right.
Yeah, this was something that I brought up.
Does that answer the questions, Christian?
Just
Yeah,
in-
no, full answers, yes.
Me after, please.
Yeah, just speaking in support of that, that was something that I brought because I was at the Chicano moratorium yesterday, and they several times acknowledged that they're actually on Tonga territory and everything like this. And when I get into the conversations that the liberation flag gets me into, one of the things I mentioned that we have been fighting to return land to indigenous peoples since 1835, and that the same people that were fighting to return mission lands are the same ones that fought for independence in 36, the same folks, and the ones who resisted independence during that period are the ones who wanted the mission land for themselves, you know, pursuant to secularization. So we've always been on that side of the question, always.
You wouldn't believe I've actually got in my notes that I was making earlier today. I was hoping to ask, and I didn't know who'd be on the call. I was hoping to ask whoever I was going to be speaking to at the time the angle that's taken on obviously with the Latin American vote, with the invasion of what we in Europe what we would refer to as the invasion of Californian land originally, how that plays out with, voters, is that the stronger of the issue. So this is something I was, only today thinking about. This obviously seems to be something that resonates quite strongly with the core campaign.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, here we go. If you check the website and Calm's Facebook page and stuff, I've actually got a graphic that actually says that reminds people that most people do not know that California was in fact invaded by the United States of America in 1846, and that we can frame our. And I think it should be important to you because, okay, by the way, when we met, this is a good time for me to mention the fact that I'm what you would call a solicitor in your country, right, Christian?
Yep.
So, and it's important to realize that under international law, if we can make the case that California was invaded and we are a decolonization movement, then we have a legitimate claim to become independent, which no other state can make. I'd also like to take the moment, since we were kind of related to what we're talking about. This is one of the rosettes. I'm a student of British politics,
Okay.
and so I thought it'd be really clever. Nobody does this in the United States of America, really. This is what you'd see on the side of a cow or a prize-winning racehorse, but not on or at the county fair, but not on a person.
Politicians don't wear the rosette.
No, we don't do that in the States. It's an angle thing.
You're missing out.
Yes, exactly. So this was one thing. We've sent these around, so at least we'll be able to, when we're gathering petition, the idea is you're gathering the petition, you got the rosettes, people walk up, they see California independence on it, they don't ask a stupid question like, what is this about? Maybe the next question might be, are you really for the independence of California? Want to let you know, I have had a chance, guys, I apologize, I haven't had a chance to let you know that Friday I received buttons. I now have 100 buttons of each, but now you guys are all going to be prepared by September 8 to go out and, again, get a picture of California if you can't see, and a life ring. And Christian will appreciate this, I'm sure. A life ring is a symbol of safety and rescue. And so the idea being that America is a sinking ship.
I love this. I adore this. This is British politics through and through.
So I've been using my skills as a graphic artist, as they are, to make sure that we're prepared on September 8. Because I remind people that come September 8, the media is going to come down like this. And you need to be prepared on September 7. Because you'll never get as much, you probably will not get it, well, let's just be hopeful. But that is going to be a real large amount of media attention it's guaranteed to get. You can predict it, you can plan for it. You will now have to fight for more media in the future. That's going to be your earned media blast right there. Use it.
Sorry, could I ask what that event is? Sorry, I've not been.
Oh, September 8 is the day that we expect the resolution to be approved by the state of California.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the date you hit that.
Yeah, you probably have already. Do I have to go into the? You don't have to go to the process of how you get a ballot issued in California. It's not in the basics of it, or you understand. Yeah, the key is we get that approval on the 8th of September, and then that begins a 6-month clock, which coincidentally falls right during the period in which we expect the most conflict over the election of 2020. So wasn't it, Marcus? A lot of people were telling you that this was the wrong timing. And I said, that's perfect timing. That's what I said. I said, it could be better because it comes right smack when people are going to be coming close to ask the question, is America going to make it?
Let me jump in real quick, if I could. Hannah's totally right. I just want to backpack on what Hannah's saying. Hannah's totally correct. So this is for everybody, and Christian, for you. September 8th, right before September 11th, maybe even September 11th, the initiative will come out. That's for everybody. Now, here's the key thing. We have 5.5 months. 5.5 months to collect all the signatures, okay? So start September 11th. Then you have basically all of September, October, November, December, January, and you go up to basically about halfway February 20th. So here's the key thing. We're starting beginning of September, and then there's October. The election is November 3rd. Okay? if Trump wins, we're seceding. If there's chaos in the streets, we're seceding. If Trump says, I'm not stepping down and it gets crazy, Californians are going to be talking about seceding. So we're going to have a gigantic media boost unless Trump concedes the election and all of his followers say, that's cool. We respect votes and we're just going to be cool with it and participate normally. And Trump says, hey, I respect the results and I'm just going to step down. No challenge. And Biden clearly wins. Then it'll be kind of hard for us. Although we did pretty well when Obama was president. However, I got to tell you, brother, no one thinks any of that's going to happen. No one thinks Trump's going to step down. No one thinks his supporters are just going to go away quietly. People are very worried about a contested election, and a bunch of people are talking about mail-in ballots, and you won't even know who won till a month after the election. So during that month, while people are counting ballots and not sure, pop, 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 it's going to get crazy. So
what are the figures, by the way? You see about you have 5.5 months to collect signatures. Is that done on a raw numbers or a percentage basis?
it is done. You have 5.5 months to get 600,000 signatures.
Okay.
So you have a exact number of signatures you have to get. You have 5.5 months to get it. The clock will start September 11th. We'll use about 2 months, right? But then in November, if there's any sort of anything other than a perfect, streamlined, everything goes greatly, perfectly wonderful election, we're going to get a gigantic amount of Californians going, holy shit. Because we're the only other option in town, right? So if things don't go perfect, we're the backup plan. We're the life saver. The ship is sinking. I need to jump ship. And we will have been in the game for 2 months. So I know you're looking at a bunch of grassroots activists, and Hal's going to have the website up here soon, but by the time we get our second media bump, which is the election of November 3rd, and possibly the chaos that will ensue in some degree that everyone predicts is going to happen, we will have an additional 4 months to keep collecting signatures. So 2 months, and then gigantic explosion of people going, oh my God, America's sinking. What am I going to do? Oh, there's only one other option, Calexit. Oh, there's only one other people offering that. And we'll have 4 more months to collect signatures. So it's going to get hot September 11th. It's going to get even hotter 2 months in. And we'll have an additional 4 months during super hot mega times to get those signatures. And that's unless all of Trump's supporters say it's cool and Trump's cool and everything goes wonderfully, which no one thinks is going to happen. People who are not prone to conspiracy theory are saying we're going to have difficulty telling for sure who's going to be the president for weeks and months after the election because of COVID-19 and mail-in ballots and all the hijinks with that. So when people get scared, like Hannah pointed out, Hannah's the one that came up with the sinking ship. When people get scared, people jump on Calexit. Mm-hmm. Trump won. Huge bump for Calexit. Trump couldn't handle the pandemic. Huge bump for Calexit. Fires across America. Huge bump for Calexit. Brett Kavanaugh. They won't even listen to the evidence against them in the Senate. Huge bump for Calexit. You see a pattern? Whenever Californians look and see America falling apart, they start joining this movement. So we expect calamity in November. That gives us 4 more months of massive marketing on it. And I'll leave it with, you don't even have to get all the signatures. As I told the English reporter 2 days ago, if you get 25%, that's 1/4. You get a hearing in front of the assembly in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. So you tell me, Christian, what happens when there's chaos in the streets and the California government has a televised hearing on seceding? They didn't say they support it, but it's the official California government talking to secession activists in the official Capitol live on television. Do you think the world's going to blow up or not after that happens? We only need 25% of the signatures to get that.
Talking about the signatures themselves, do you mind me asking, these 600,000 you need, are they of exact electors? Are they registered voters? Or is it just
registered voters?
Registered voters. Okay, so that makes it slightly harder, obviously. And from memory, the Yes California campaign had signatures on their website. It was like a sort of a clock. or saying these many people have signed up to
Yes, yes, we did. We had the exact number up there, and it's a really great website.
it.
That
Those
brings me
people
to
who
the
already
third.
signed up, do they count towards this, or is this something you need to go back to them and say, can you re-sign?
You have to do all fresh,
Okay.
all fresh signatures. I will say this, California has more registered voters than ever before. In 200 years, we have the highest amount of registered voters ever. So yeah, it's a big number, and yeah, we have the highest ability to get those numbers ever in California history. So that's also true. Also, we got that commercial for Calexit that you saw. I mean, a lot of people watch Netflix, and Gwyneth Paltrow lives here.
I really, really enjoyed the series, and then obviously I spoke to you last time before the second series came out. But to watch what was genuinely an advert for Calexit on
Those were our talking points, word for word.
Yeah.
Those people stole our talking points for that script. Know that. Now, are they going to give us credit? No, but that is exactly what they said. So somebody saw exactly what we're saying and fed it directly to her. Last point, everybody remember the 3rd of November. That's for you, Christian. Remember the 3rd of November. That's the election. We have 4 more months after that happens. So don't think after September 11th that it. Yes, we're going to get a bump, but I really, listening to Hannah, don't think things are going to go smooth in November. I really don't. And people get scared, and when they get scared, they go right here immediately. That's why we have the sinking ship life ring thing. Final point, Christian, you and everybody, here's a lesson for everybody. I just talked to my tech people. Nobody knew the Yes California website was down,
Yeah,
which
it's
tells me
closed.
something. All of you should be aware the LAO report for our initiative came out 2 days ago. So the legislative analyst report for this initiative, summarizing it, came out 2 days ago. I didn't tell you guys because I was still going through it, figuring out what to say. Then our website is mysteriously taken down and no one knows why. Well, I can't prove anything, but boy, have I gone through this 4 times before. Our website always mysteriously goes down right before major news. So welcome to now. That's why we have a movement. Now, of course, I can't prove that, but folks, I've gone through this a couple times. Right before a major event, our site is down and no one knows why, and we called the webmasters and they're not sure, and even our new website. We did extra security protocols to guarantee this would never happen, and it happened again. So can't prove anything, but wow, what a coincidence that again, right before a major news and right after the LAO report comes down, our website crashes and no one knew about it. That's why we have multiple organizations like Hannah, like Hal, IC. That's why we have different groups, folks. It's already happening. Just so that you know, this is not a coincidence. The California government reviewed our initiative and said, basically, here's your title and summary, which is the final step before it's released. And then in 24 hours, our site crashes. And I didn't know. Not a coincidence at all. Just recognize it on. That means the system knows it's on. Shit's getting real. I'll leave it there. Christian and Al.
Guys, yeah, I see you, Gar. I see you, Walter. You're gonna get your chance, but I want to introduce. I want to keep going with the agenda, or else we're gonna get off topic. But you'll get to ask your questions after.
Marcus, get your servers over to Iceland or Switzerland, bro. That's your problem right there.
Okay. So let's go, Christian. I just if you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you could help our organization, all that kind of thing, that we can all get a sense of where you're coming from and what you could contribute.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, Jason, I've seen your message in the chat, the video link. Thank you for sending that over. I've saved that. I'll be able to have a look after this ends. Basically, what I do is I do political analysis. I work with campaigns mostly throughout Europe, but I've advised on campaigns in Asia as well. What I do is I used to run local campaigns in Britain with Vote Leave. That's how I originally got started, which obviously means a lot to you guys with Succession. So I used to work with Vote Leave. They took me on as an analyst, and then I ended up running their kind of Southeast campaign for them. I take the voter kind of data and the analysis, and I take it into what you guys might know with the obviously with the Trump campaign. The data analysts who worked with that, they took a lot of personal data. I don't know how you feel about the personal data being used with large elections. Obviously, with the Trump campaign garnishing a lot of poor media from that, but that's largely what I do. I take that information and I make it work for us. I kind of do large referendum campaigns around Europe, but with France, what I've done was En Marche. They were a campaign to kind of go separatist politics for mainstream French. The idea behind En Marche is we are not going to have a standardized presidential election. What we wanted was something entirely separate, almost a referendum campaign within French politics to say we're not going to continue with the two-party system. And so that's what I like to specialize in. It's referendum campaigns, and that's what I saw with Yes California. It was a couple of years ago. I reached out. I never heard anything back, unfortunately. Marcus wasn't working on it at the time, I don't think. We didn't hear anything. The team I was working with, because we were looking to do election campaign videos, sort of in kind of social media stuff. I no longer work with that team. I'm now independent. But I reached out again to Marcus a few months ago and said, you know, what's going on with the Yes California campaign? It's garnishing a lot of media attention in Europe. It's a campaign I'd love to work on. I've had family live in California who believe in this sort of issue. That's what I've been genuinely interested in. I do kind of campaigns mostly in politics, but I have worked marketing campaigns for, like Marcus introduced me earlier. I don't know if all of you heard that. It was the Ministry of Defense. So I work with defense contractors. So I do marketing for them. So they've recently been going into COVID supplies. So we do large scale marketing within politics. So this is the ideal campaign for me. This is what I wanted to achieve, is kind of another Vote Leave, another succession campaign, but something that is, again, grassroots, is like what we saw in Britain.
Right. Let me ask you quickly, Christian, what do you personally feel are chances as a secession movement, this coming up with this initiative? What is your opinion on that? Do you feel we could achieve that goal? Do you feel, just let us know what
There are two very, very important things, two kind of distinguishments to make. Is even if you vote for independence doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. As we've seen in Britain, is it doesn't matter what you vote for. And this is what, you know, Mark's talked about earlier. Even if people don't vote for Trump and, the Democrats win, Trump trying to stay in power, that's what's going to happen. You know, he's going to try and retain power. This is the Yes California campaign. It's just because we vote for something doesn't mean California will succeed. There's going to be a serious battle within Congress and the Senate to actually see the succession happen. And so if you're asking me whether or not I believe it'll actually happen, or whether or not I believe the Californians will vote for it, we're talking about, I do believe the Californians could vote for it. I'm not willing to look at direct, so the polling, which I saw back in 2016, if you're not looking necessarily who supports California's succession, but looking who goes against it, was only 57%, and that's without a campaign. So we're looking at very close to 50% who doesn't outright disagree with it. And so those are far better figures than you could ever hope for in any sort of succession campaign before the campaign even started. Whereas whether or not it'll actually go ahead, whether or not Congress or the Senate will actually vote for it, I couldn't possibly comment. I'm not in either part. I'm not in the Congress. I'm not in the Senate. It's not up for me.
Just so you know too, that the initiative signature, we get the signature gatherings, right?
Yes.
That only puts an initiative on the ballot.
Absolutely.
Which I think would be probably 2022. At that point, there would be, if it were passing by the majority, if it passes, then it would then create a commission, which is supposed to report back in time for 2024. and then have a final vote on the independence. So that's the reason why we're allowed to do this without breaking the United States Constitution. Of course, that's what the initiative says. Then there's the reality that you and I live in, which is that if, that's why we keep talking about, if the United States of America becomes destabilized, there's going to be a real rush for it. But however, our feeling is that my feeling at least, is that the initiative, just the signatures, is going to demonstrate in a meaningful way that, support here in California for this. Other states, particularly to the Pacific to the north, are gonna join us, etc. I mean, we just have to. I've been trying to tell you that when you get a chance, Christian, if you haven't, check a look at the webpage callib.org. There's a 4-part article called "Red Pill Liberals," and what it relates is a project that was recently completed called the Transition Integrity Project. This is your kind of wonky stuff. It involved John Podesta. It involved Michael Steele. Are these the names that you know of in your country? Yeah. We're talking heavy hitters, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, people like that. And they were asked, they basically studied the question of what is the likelihood of disorder breaking out during or particularly after the 2020 elections. So, by the way, while I have the floor, I'm going to remind you guys that the way our country works is December 4 is when the electors are supposed to be appointed. January 6 is when the United States House and Senate are supposed to assemble, and they're supposed to determine who has won the election. And if that doesn't work, now if there isn't, it's not the House or the Senate. They both have to meet together. This is a joint session. If there's no joint session, then on January 20, Nancy Pelosi will become the President of the United States. There's another piece that we have to really worry about, and that's the 12th Amendment, which particularly because it would allow this individual state delegations of members of Congress to vote. In Christian's idea, it'd be sort of like, Christian, imagine if like all the representatives, all the members of parliament in Scotland were to get one vote on who's going to become prime minister, and all the representatives in Wales could get one vote, and all the representatives in the Midlands got one vote. It so happens under that system, we would expect the president, that Donald Trump would become reelected despite having lost the majority of the popular vote, despite even having lost the electoral vote. That's what a system we have thanks to the U.S. Constitution. Oh, one more thing. I'm working on a book that's going to be just about why we need to change the U.S. Constitution and not have this problem. It's going to be called Trump-Proofing America. And I think it's a good title, but that is a basic concept I think we need to really discuss. Anyways, that's all I got to let you know. Lots to go on, but I think you want to read that article, and you'll really explain that these are people who really know, are authoritative speakers who are really analysts about what's the likelihood. And one of the things they do, by the way, they actually have a scenario in which the Biden campaign, this is a wargaming thing, if you know what a wargaming type of simulation is. In one of their simulations, the Biden campaign actually endorsed California independence or threatened to endorse California independence if constitutional reforms were not approved by the Republican-dominated U.S. Senate. So, I just simply said, or telling people that we're used to being told all the time we're crazy, but John Podesta apparently thinks there are circumstances in which it's not going to be a crazy idea.
Let me jump in here and add on to what Hannah has been saying. In the United States, you need multiple approaches to try to get something accomplished. And in addition to what Hannah said about the invasion of 1846, which I think we ought to keep reiterating, we also ought to emphasize the illegality of the 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that was forced on the Mexican government by an American army of occupation, and that it doubly does not apply to California, not only because it was an illegal forced treaty anyway, but especially because of what Hannah reiterated about the 1846 invasion. So there are multiple different approaches that need to be emphasized to undercut this idea that, oh, well, this is something that cannot be done. I agree with Marcus that what is going to happen, likely happen after November 3rd, is mass chaos. And we ought to have a strategy not only to be collecting signatures, but also to be moving ahead more rapidly as things do devolve into chaos, which I think is definitely coming.
Great. Thank you, guys. As you can see, Christian, those are two of our historians right there. Our dictionaries of history. Anyways, Matt is another one. So we're very happy to have them for those insights. So I'm gonna go on with now the agenda said.
Joe Payne.
What?
Joe Payne should be next, I think. Joe Payne was going to talk to.
Well, it was going to be Hal or Shankar interviews Christian and discusses what help IC would need. Do you want to go through that or go to Joe?
I thought we did that, but hey, okay. Hal, Shankar.
Shankar,
Could you
wanted to speak. No,
you want to ask Christian specifically what sort of campaign help he could provide to IC, or that you would be looking, so that when money comes after the initiative is up, you could hire Christian. What sort of assistance would you need from Christian, Hal, and Shankar? And then we'll go to Joe.
Actually, at the moment, that kind of puts me on the spot cold, because I'm not sure what I would be looking for.
Fair enough.
If Shankar has I would gladly yield the floor to Shankar, and I would be happy to speak to Christian about it afterwards. You know, in a more, you know, when fewer luminaries were waiting online to speak.
Christian, can you put your email, sir, in the chat if you're willing, and then people can contact you? So, hey, people, if you want to contact Christian, this is what he's for. Again, he knows that there's not money now. He knows that with campaigns, though, when it gets coming, donations will be coming. So he's going to put his email in. You are all invited to email him nicely and talk about assistance you may want to hire him for when things get going. Shankar, let's have you talk to Christian for a few minutes.
All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry I was late. Had to shop for a little bit. But Christian from Jolly Old, my friend. So you worked on, I just want to clarify a couple things real quick, that you were on the Brexit campaign, working for Brexit, doing political campaigns, right? Getting people elected for office that were for Brexit?
No, so Vote Leave was a referendum campaign. They weren't elected for office. It was a direct referendum campaign. So I ran the campaign for the South East of England to vote for direct independence from the European Union.
So, you were working on like an individual's campaign. It was a referendum for Brexit.
Absolutely. I have worked on individuals' campaigns, but for Vote Leave, we had a direct campaign for independence.
Hey, do you know Nigel Farad, man? You know that guy? Have you met him? Or
I have met him. I've got his personal mobile. We text often.
So, do you know what he did over here in California? Like, I don't know.
Well, I've seen him in the US, obviously, standing on stage, you know, introducing Trump. He teamed up with this. He teamed up with this with Eastern California congressperson, and tried to split the state up into three. And we got the flack on that. They thought that was us, and worked perfectly like a charm for Mr. Nigel Farad. So it caused a lot of confusions in Californians. And to this day, we still get, oh, yeah, you guys are the ones that want to split California up in three. So kudos to your ex-boss over there. He didn't actually work. We didn't work on the same campaign. So a bit like I was trying to get information from Marcus earlier.
Yeah, can we be a little bit nice, please, and not assume?
Yeah, be nice. I'm glad.
No, Marcus, okay. I've got no problems. This is absolutely fine. With Nigel, he worked for Leave.eu. And so this is what we try to achieve with the referendum campaign. Is what I was asking earlier about, kind of political alignments. Vote Leave. What we did was we talked about sovereignty. We talked about kind of what laws we would be able to pass in our country, whether or not it would be good for our NHS, for our education system. Now, a lot of people voted Brexit because they did not like immigration. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people. The more Nigel Farage talks, the more support there was for Remain, unfortunately. So obviously, people do. So what Vote Leave did, and there's a fantastic thing. I can direct to you, is what the Vote Leave campaign did was tell Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage had been talking about independence forever. Vote Leave was the main campaign. He came in and said, look, I want to work with you guys. Obviously, I'm the face of Leave for the past 20 years. And they told him to get lost. They said, no, thank you. They said, we don't want you. And the reason they said we don't want you is because they want him to go off and run his own campaign that talks about immigration, that talks about kind of people coming from all these other different countries, so that they can get this sort of racist, xenophobic vote, and that he can win those kind of votes for the campaign without the main campaign having to get their hands dirty. And that was... So I worked on the main campaign that said, look, we've got a million fantastic reasons for the European Union. He was part of this racist campaign that took hold of the race.
I see.
I understand politics, understand how it works. Is sometimes, even if you're racist, you're still a voter. And unfortunately, whilst I disagree with you and your views of racism, I still want you to vote for us because obviously we need your vote, and that's unfortunate in politics. So whilst we're happy for him to go and do that, and whilst I still have his number and we text, etc., at the end of the day, we worked on different campaigns.
Right. No. I as much as I have not a healthy opinion of him, I have a very much respect for him as a character on this scene, if you will. I mean, he's good, man. He's good at what he does, and kudos to him, man. I wish him the best. So in this theme of Brexit, and then us over here, have you contacted like Scotland, your neighbors, or Brazil, or even Spain, Catalonia? I mean, I think Catalonia is pretty much in jail now. I'm not sure how if there's even a movement there at all. But have you had word with any of the other independence movements?
I worked on the campaign against Scottish independence. I work for the highest bidder often. That's how politics works. Unfortunately, is you pick a side and you take the money. But this is I'm lucky enough to have on my CV another wing, because unfortunately Scotland didn't vote to succeed. When it came to Catalonia, funny enough, I got asked to come and it wasn't even work on the campaign. It was just write some reports on whether or not I believe certain campaign tactics would work. And unfortunately, I was working at the time for a few Conservative Party MPs, doing some stuff for them, that I had to turn it down. 2 months later, a lot of the people who went and did it got arrested. So I was fortunate enough to be in a position that I turned it down.
So I have another question, because look, September 8th, we got this thing coming out here. I'm worried about zero press. That's what I'm worried about. They hate us so much. They will bury us unless we present something or show them something that is worthy of them putting it on. So and in saying that, I'm wondering, how did you frame your position on autonomy to the public, and then having the press follow along with that? Like, what was there a tactic? I mean, does fear work? I mean, does patriotism work better than that? I mean, how can we like package this a little bit, if you will, if you have any suggestion on that? I mean,
well, you're talking in terms of the kind of the media frame, and the media will always, if they have an idea of what idea they want to present, they'll get their experts on the show, and it will be an expert in what. It doesn't matter what they're an expert in, as long as they can call them an expert. That's so that In Britain, what we did with a massive campaign for Vote Leave, which Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, they all said, we're fed up of experts. We're not interested in experts. We're interested in real people. And that is the way you counter the media on all of these sort of campaigns. Is if any of these large scale organizations want to go against you, they will paint you as the grassroots movement who doesn't know what they're on about. They're these kind of lunatic ideologies. If that's what they want to paint you as, you say to the people, look, we've had enough of these kind of middle class experts who think they know what's best for us. We're the ones having to do the kind of hard work. We're the working class. We're the ones who are losing our jobs. The economy is affecting. These experts aren't, they're not really achieving anything. So this was the campaign that we ran. Is we've had enough of experts. We've had enough of the middle class. This is what we want to achieve.
Oh my God! Thank you so much. That was that's huge, man. I don't even know what to say to that. That's total. That's Nigel Farage right there. That is him. That's what he does. What's the current prime minister? The current prime minister does the same thing. He does the same thing whenever someone tries to shoot him down. He just says he pleads to that, and I never saw that. And I think does Trump do that to a certain party?
He does.
Trump does that too.
Yeah, fake news.
No.
It is entirely his idea of fake news is essentially I don't want to use this word, but it's essentially a childish version of what we do with the UK. Is he essentially says, look, we've got enough experts, but instead of experts, he just calls them fake news.
So when you say fake news, there is a lot of misinformation about California out there, and people believe it as fact, as a matter of fact. And so having this attitude, I think would, I think that would resolve that completely almost, man. And then if they really want to find out the truth, they can, but I don't think the truth matters at this point. I had one more question for you, Rand, real quick. Nigel Farage, Scotland. Wait a second, what does it say? What did you do for... Oh man, I can't even read my own writing, dude. I'm a left-handed person, that's why. Oh, here we go. How can we tie, I'm sure you use current events and things that were happening outside of England when framing certain viewpoints. Did you plan those, or was it because news happens fast, so when a news cycle comes, and do you use that right away, or do you plan what you're going to say a month from now or 2 months from now? How far does your strategy go? Is it on the fly, or are you guys planning 2, 3, 4 months ahead?
Obviously, we plan ahead. We have an agenda of so we have an agenda that we set from the off. But the moment anything comes in, the first person to use that information will always win the battle. It's essentially, it is a two-person war. Who on my side, but so whoever's representing the other side of the campaign, to collect California to remain, it is essentially me v them. Whichever one of us can come up and use that information the first will always win that battle of the news cycle. And that is how you win a campaign. Is you have the agenda, you set the agenda with the media, with the people and the politicians. But whoever comes up first was the first way to use. So even if it's a negative story about you, you can turn that around. Whoever uses it first. So it's not one or the other. It is using both in tandem to create the campaign. Absolutely.
Dang, man, dude. So look, we'll talk. I think we'll talk later on. Probably one-on-one or with Marcus or whatever. Just at what's happening with this initiative and plans and how this is going to go about. I just want to touch base with you on that just a little bit more because we need. I think, dude, you know your stuff, Christian. Thank you for coming on here, bro. That's all the questions I had for you, man. It was a
well, pleasure.
I have a question. Two things. First, what do you see from what you know at this point, and hopefully as you learn more, what other things do you see that you think are our weaknesses at this point and what we need to work on? And then secondly, if you could just kind of give us an overview of what kinds of things you think you could be most helpful for in our successful campaign?
So you've asked me to start off with your weaknesses. Obviously, I don't want to talk down what you've done so far.
Do it, say it, man.
No, it's been I like what I see. That's why I get involved in campaigns. I'm not saying I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but I like what I see, and that's why I got involved in the first place. There's a lot of talk about the future of California, is what California can achieve. My only suggestion is, with the wording, we do know from kind of the stats that we've run all throughout every single kind of referendum campaign we've had throughout the world, is this, as the closer you get to the actual date of the referendum, the more the general public, so the independents, moves towards the status quo. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys in California, the number of independents are actually growing. That's the largest voter group in terms of growth. So it's all about the messaging that you guys have. So you're talking about moving California to a new place, about kind of future growth. But I want to go back to what Hannah was talking about, is the fact that, the US invaded California and took it away. So the messaging, for me, I believe it should be about taking California back. That's what we used so successfully in Britain, was take back control. Was the messaging is we taking it back. We're moving towards the status quo that used to be.
Who said that? Who in this group said that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Anna's been saying that for a little while.
Damn. You're right, man.
I think Hannah's obviously got a background in British politics. I think she mentioned that earlier. I think that's what we see largely is it's about moving. The voters always move towards the status quo, and that's the message. That's always been the messaging: is take back control. Look, kind of the funding is what you give to the US or the public. You give more in taxes than what you receive back into the state. So it's about taking back control of that funding. I mean, that I was reading earlier today, it was a PPIC, 58% of Californians believe they spend too much on their taxes. If that's a message you can control of, we give too much, take back control of our funding, that is where you can see it. That's where I see you're seriously succeeding.
Go ahead, William. Are you done, Mr.
Well, there was a second. That was answering, I hope, the first part. Sorry. Well, was the second part of your question again? Sorry.
Just what do you see as the specific contributions that you could most make to our campaign and be most helpful?
So traditionally, I've always been, when I work my campaign, an analyst. I take the information that you've already received through Canvas data and through kind of literature drops when you receive back from those literature inputs. I analyze the data and I come up with campaign strategies. But I also like to get my hands dirty. I do the canvassing myself. I don't know if you've heard of Dominic Cummings, where you guys are. He's a bit of my political hero. Is no one can ever run a successful campaign without meeting the people in the pub. That's the most important thing. Without meeting people in the pub. A bar. He went through. So this is what I do. Is when I go on a campaign, I don't just kind of argue. A lot of people sit there in an office in their kind of their studios, and they go, "This is what I believe." Bit like I was talking about earlier. You get these experts who think they know best. What I love to do is I'll go into these local bars, the local pubs. You talk to the people, and that's where Vote Leave and the referendum was won. Was you talk to different voter groups, you actually find out exactly what makes them tick. This was the whole. When you see what affects them most and what gets them angriest, that's where you win a campaign. So not only do I analyze the data, I come up with campaign strategies, I'll give you slogans, I write speeches, I canvas, I literature drop. It's about actually finding the people on the ground exactly what they believe in and using that against them. Whether or not they actually would like an independent California, you find out what makes them angry, and you make sure that the reason, the way to solve that anger is an independent California.
Man,
thank you.
So for some reason, Californians, I guess like the rest of the country, like it. So look, aside from the taxes, man, you've got federal government agencies coming here, kidnapping our residences, and then God knows where the hell they go. You've got them coming over here, disrupting our marijuana businesses, which is a $30 billion industry, taking their product, taking their inventory, and disappearing. And then they tax us more than any other state, and they give us less than what we actually put in. So we're losing hand over fist. And if you say this to Californians, they're just like, yeah, what are you going to do? And I don't.
When it comes to taxes, a lot, obviously California traditionally in terms of voting has been a Democratic state. Apart from obviously, well, the Proposition 8 it went exceedingly the other way. But when you actually put it in real terms, so like I was reading something fairly recently about the Californian wildfires. There was a large group of people who genuinely believed, and I'm not suggesting this is true, this is just what these people were suggesting, was the reason that the central government is not helping more with these fires is because they wanted to burn through a lot of area so that rich people can come up and buy the land and, you know, kind of take the area away from the kind of people who used to live there. I'm not suggesting this is true, but this is the ideas that are going through a lot of kind of the media at the moment with Californians, is that they're not being helped by central government in aid of wealthy benefactors.
When you say central government, you mean California government, right?
No, U.S. government.
Oh, the federal government.
Yeah, Washington.
Yeah, I've heard that too, because I've seen their evidence too. It's quite compelling, actually. That's damn good. We've been taking the attitude like that's too below us. That's beneath us. That is a conspiracy theory. That is, tinfoil hats. It's just, it's not how we want to put. But dude, you know what, man? I think you're right, bro.
Well, it's about using the evidence for each individual person. It might be below you, and that's not what would convince you to vote for independent California, but it might be what convinces several hundred people. So you talk about what's below you on a campaign is when you talk about a campaign, we don't have one central ideology. What we propose is an individual ideology to each voter, what we best think represents them.
Oh my God, dude, I love this guy, dude. Dude. Why weren't we doing this before, man?
Let's not forget that we all know we're responsible because we didn't rake the leaves of our parks. That's why we have fires. You know, this is the kind of thing you want to tell Californians. You go, this is ludicrous. You've got a president telling us that we have wildfires because we didn't rake the leaves on federal.
It isn't just a rumor, y'all. I mean, you had one of Donald Trump's former staff members in the Homeland Security. I think he was deputy chief of staff, I believe. And he reported in, right, to the reporters, he said, Donald Trump did not want to help California wildlife victims specifically because of politics. We don't vote for him. We're not his people, regardless of what people in Northern California are like. That's another stuff. He doesn't know anything about that. We don't vote for him. He thinks he can't get anything out of it. Therefore, he didn't want to help us. He wanted to leave us high and dry. So
no, because he wants the forest to burn. He is systematically burning the forest and telling us to clean up the leaves. What's that? He wants us to burn alive.
Donald Trump wants us to burn. He doesn't give a damn about trees. He wants us to burn alive. Maybe that's a little bit too blunt, but that's just rhetorically speaking. But I'm saying that this is what Donald Trump's own staff member, after leaving the White House, told reporters. You can't get much better than that other than a sworn affidavit.
All right. Let me just say real quick, great points. I think you're seeing the intensity, the emotion here, Christian. I just wanted to say, Shankar, you're doing beautiful. Everybody, this is why Christian came out today. We are approaching the point of real politic. Now, I know not everybody's agreed with me, but homie, you get to have one goal going forward and only one. It's California being independent and the rest of it's being about winning. And like, oh, that's slightly disingenuous. That's like, do you want to win or not? This is real politics.
Exactly.
It's winning the game. This is, and I know some of you are purists, and I love you for it. But we ain't gonna win being purists. Oh, I can't do that. You're gonna do what it takes to motherfucking win, or we all lose.
Fuck yes. Finally,
So I a professional political consultant here today, and Shankar's the one who's really zeroing in on how do you do this? How do you do that? Professor Williams is the second one. How do we do this? How do we do that? How do we win? And look at what Christian's saying. He's gone, look, politics aside, here's what you do to win. So Shankar, great questions. Everybody should be asking questions like Shankar and Professor Williams. How do we win? I'll stop there.
Okay, so I'm gonna move along the thing.
Come on, bud.
And I go to
Dan, I'd like Shankar to ask a few more questions.
Oh, you have more questions, Shankar?
Yes, I think we should allow a few more questions for
I didn't know you had.
about political stuff before we move on.
Look, I just wanted to state this, and we've made the necessary changes within the movement. I'm talking about move the certain people around and away so we can start doing things like this, because this is the mindset that I had in the beginning, and I kept getting shot down for all kinds of for this all day. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if you heard in the beginning that we did an embassy in Moscow. We were opening another California embassy in England, Paris.
Don't go into that. Please don't go into that. God, no.
Go to politic question. Shankar,
I'm just saying.
Political question.
Okay. No. All right, never mind. I did have one. There's too much shit running in my head right now. Sorry. Go ahead.
Are you so are you done, Shankar?
Right there, Jason, bro.
Okay, so you're done, Shankar. Thank you. I just wanted to.
I might have one.
I have a question.
I forgot what it was.
Go ahead, Jason. Hold on, let me unmute you.
So embassies got brought up. I'm not saying any specifics. I'm just going to ask, from a political analyst point of view, do you think that us reaching out internationally and asking for even slight shows of support from foreign leadership, like,
Recognition.
I had written to Chancellor Merkel on her first day of taking back the seat of the EU and requested kindly that maybe, some folks in the EU could say something to the effect that they understand that California is going through this movement and they view us as, kind of our own people. They understand we are part of America right now, but that California is very different from America in the eyes of the world. Something, small like that. They're not, saying, yes, California, Calexit, nothing.
Like a letter of recognition.
Well, look, it depends, obviously it depends massively who it comes from. When people talk about actually, when Obama came in and said he preferred Britain to stay in the EU, it actually helped the Leave campaign, because the rest of the UK turned around and said, "Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?" So my job is to understand the data. I could not tell you now whether or not it would be a good idea for individual leaders to step in and say, "We push that campaign." My job later on is to look at the data, speak to the actual people, speak to the actual voters, find out from a select group. You do focus groups, you do kind of voter registrations. Through that, you actually look at what would help your campaign of which person to get involved. At the moment, I would not suggest any particular international figure getting involved. Like I said, it might help, it might hinder. So it can work both ways. The job I do is to come in, I look at who might help, and when someone I think, okay, this person would actually help the campaign by saying it, that's when I would go and approach them.
I would ask if you would be, if we involved you, would you be coming to be resident in California? Or I think one of our big weaknesses is that we do not have a big presence in Sacramento. Would that be someplace that you might be interested in moving for the campaign?
I go where I'm needed. That's always been my position. I don't choose where I go. I get told this is the best place for you, and that's where I go. That's the best way to answer your question, I think.
Where are you now?
At the moment, I'm in the south of France.
Love it.
This is where this is my home. But in terms of kind of joining the California campaign, it would absolutely, I would be present in California. I wouldn't necessarily, you mentioned Sacramento, I wouldn't necessarily be in one place. If I was to be involved in the campaign, it might be in several places. So it would be wherever I'm needed most.
Okay. Yeah. It's regarding Europe and stuff. I mean, I don't. I mean, this is my impression, Christian, that you're kind of you're a Eurosceptic, and even though, and I mean, I was going to ask you though. I mean that. My reading of politics in Europe is right now there's a great deal of discussion going on at the Brussels and Berlin level about whether or not the United States of America is a valid or a viable partner for transatlantic security, European security. But I don't know if you've got an opinion on that or if you think that that's being overblown or something.
I think
you don't have to answer that question.
In terms of transatlantic security, it will change the moment where Trump gets either re-elected or kicked out. When it comes down to actual security politics, or when it comes down to trade or security, health, infrastructure, there's no amongst the actual kind of voters in Europe, it really doesn't matter whether or not the policies matter. It comes down to the leader of the moment, the US.
No, my feeling is that it's going beyond. I think it beyond Trump. It's like, okay, let's say Biden gets in. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion that Biden would be better for NATO than Trump. All right.
Well, you mentioned European skepticism earlier, and I think the skepticism goes beyond European politics. You just mentioned NATO. We've obviously with Donald Trump saying he wants to withdraw support from the WHO. We are going through something similar in the UK and in France and in Spain, Germany. We want to withdraw from these large bureaucratic systems. Bureaucrats only ever look out for themselves. When it comes to things like NATO and the UN, they are looking out for the interest of the bureaucrat and not the people. And so when it comes to security, they are looking to wider partners that don't involve these sort of infrastructures, so looking to the US direct involvement. But unfortunately, no one is willing to admit at the moment that they want US help because of who the leader is.
Well, yes, and his Russian alignment, but and he's talked about removing the United States from NATO, and NATO was founded by the USA effectively in 1947. But okay, that's why I thought I didn't want to discuss, and I want to urge everyone else to sort of get away from this topic. I don't. It feels, you're only speaking. You can only now speak as just a professional, and you're not really speaking from yourself because you're not really a big fan of Europe, or you haven't thought about it. Can I ask you briefly?
Oh,
Now I get it. You're an avid Tory party member. Did you consider UKIP, or are you just really devoted towards the Conservative Party?
I'm a die-hard independent. When it comes to working in politics and voting in politics, are two very different things. I've not necessarily always voted for the party that I've represented, who I work for. So you mentioned the fact that I might not be the best person to speak on European politics. I worked for the Vote Leave campaign, but I live in France.
Right.
I live in Europe. I work for the En Marche campaign. Macron is a massive believer in the European Union. I worked on his campaign to be president.
Mm. That's what my first question to him. I was vetting him out, yo.
Yeah, well, when people bring me onto a campaign, they understand that. In the past, I might have worked for the opposition, but the party I work for so far typically has been that who wins.
And I was just going by the newspaper article in the Surrey newspaper that you'd sent along, and I saw there's your bright shining face, with a speaking as a Conservative Party borough council candidate or something like that.
Yeah. That was aggressive politics on my behalf. The seat I ran in had never previously, so for the past 400 years, ever been anything other than an independent party. And so rather than campaign for that seat to become a Conservative, what I did was I thought, I'm going to present my own image and say, look, vote for me.
I love this guy.
It was aggressive student politics. I didn't want to win the seat. The seat was unwinnable. The point of it was to make it winnable in the future.
Runnymede not a safe seat.
Runnymede is a safe conservative area. Thorpe, Runnymede is broken up into individual areas. Thorpe has never been conservative. So I halved the Runnymede independent lead there, and now I took it from a paper candidacy to now it's a genuine seat the Conservatives try to win.
I see.
Christian, I have one more question for you, Christian, real quick. You mentioned a post office drop. Are these like surveys, mailers that you mail out to your what email? I'm sure you have a database of people that you can mail. What's with the post office? What are you expecting to get back? What information are you getting from that? Are you getting information from? Go ahead.
It depends on what you're sending out. So sometimes you have different types of literature drops. You have obviously a literature drop that just says, this is what we're trying to achieve. Here's the information. Please vote for us. Whereas there's a lot of other, so you have where you want them to write back to you. So you can include free post envelopes. Say, look, we want you involved in the campaign. Please tell us who you are, where you are, and what you want to do for us. Put it in an envelope, send it back to us, and we'll get back in touch. So you're picking up, volunteers. It might not just be volunteers. It might just be, look, if you're interested in having a fucking placard outside your house that says, I'm voting for this person.
Right.
So there's all sorts of information you can try and get back from them. So this is, you might be just sending out literature and putting it through the mailbox and saying, look, please vote for us. But there could be a large part of that literature that we have used to kind of get the information back of who supports us, where our support is, and on the election, which is really important, is just because they support you doesn't mean they're actually going to turn out, walk all the way to the voter booth and actually do what they say they're going to do. So now that you know where they are, we can send volunteers out to knock on that door and say, look, you told us you're going to vote for us. Go and do it. This is.
Of course, as you know, at this point, we're really at a stage where we just need to get known at all, right? So we're not at a name, we're at a real problem with credibility, So this is why I actually thought, maybe now lay it on you. I thought to myself that, hey, this guy would probably like to have a reason to go talk to more conservative friends in Britain. Because I understand, I just read an article in the Bulwark. You ever heard of the Bulwark.com? I highly recommend it. Oh, I highly recommend it. It's a conservative website. It's recently been by Charlie Sykes is one of the guys writing for it. And it's basically conservatives who don't like Trump. And there was an article that came out last week. It basically said the Reagan-Thatcherite movement wants to get rid of Trump. And this is what I thought you would probably identify yourself as, a Reagan-Thatcherite. And as that's
Lincoln Project.
Yeah, Lincoln Project is a great example of that. So my feeling had been that this is my crazy idea, that to send ads in the name of getting out the vote for Joe Biden by going into battleground states and sending up web ads that say support California independence movement, because the idea being to get people in battleground states to say, oh my God, I don't vote for Joe Biden. There won't be an America by January, and thus creating that buzz of that, oh my God, California it's got its bags packed and going out the door. And I thought to myself that what we really need to do that schedule, of course, it takes money. Maybe not a lot, because as you well know, that kind of advertising gets a very high turnover, for the dollar you spend. Right? I'm not trying to saturate anybody. We're not trying to saturate the media. We're just trying to create the impression that there is a California independence movement, and we're really got our hopes set on a Trump victory in November.
My only problem is obviously conflating the Californian campaign with Biden's campaign is a lot of people will turn around and say, look, if it wasn't for California being part of the United States, Biden will never win.
That's right.
Oh, damn.
Oh, I know that's true, although I will point out that right now, it's probably not true. Biden is so far ahead in states like Arizona. He's in ahead of states like Arizona, folks. And so I don't.
Hey, Christian, I gotta say, man, I like. I like working with you because this is what's happening. I'm sorry, Hannah. You want to finish? Go ahead. Go ahead, Hannah.
Oh, I'm just simply saying that, Christian, I get your point, and I follow the polls very closely in the various states. But I think Biden is so far ahead, he probably could, in fact, eliminate 55 electoral votes and
Yeah.
still have a good chance of winning.
I don't disagree with you. I was just presenting the argument that normally comes up with, obviously, the Democrats usually win because of California.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
do.
I
have a question for Christian. A few years ago, I read a manuscript in which I postulated that not only should California secede, but also Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Hawaii. Do you think that it would be more effective to push for an independent California alone, or to push for a Pacifica of the entire Pacific states?
You're asking a very personal opinion there as opposed to a political opinion. Obviously, I don't have the data, but from a personal opinion on what I believe would be best for a campaign would be absolutely just California. California has the benefit of being able to turn around and say, look, we would be the 6th largest economy in the world. We've got the infrastructure and the ability to work with other countries. The only problem with a lot of other states kind of joining in on that bandwagon would be everyone going, oh, well, one will do it, the rest will do it, and then the entire United States will break up. And that's the argument you want to go against. Is the last thing you want is people to believe that California leaving would be the end of the United States. You want to say, look, we want to work with the US. We want the US to stay the same. We just don't want to be as tied to it as we currently are.
I think there's a lot of sentiment in California and along the West Coast against U.S. Foreign policy in the Pacific, specifically
Portland.
Military dominance. And so I think an appeal could be made that if all of the Western states seceded, along with the military bases on the West Coast, then that would make a more substantive difference in a positive direction. That's not to say the United States would fall apart. It's just to say the United States would no longer be such a strong presence in the Pacific.
I'm not suggesting one or the other would be better for the United States.
Right.
I'm suggesting one might be better for your individual campaign.
Yeah, respectfully, Walter, you're getting way off of the subject because it is getting very complicated. It's not possible to run multi-state campaigns in one big campaign because that's not the way the country runs. It is possible. If you didn't know, Christian, Washington and Oregon both have initiative referendums. So they could actually do exactly what we're doing, legally speaking.
Yeah, they already do. Yeah.
Right.
Christian, man, listen, I like teaming up with you, man. You know, we partnered up with the Libertarian Party. We even got an endorsement from a presidential candidate from the Libertarian Party. In fact, I know Mimi Robles, the chairperson for the California Libertarian Party, which happens to be the largest Libertarian party in the world, and she loves us. She loves independent California. She believes in it. Most of her constituency in the party doesn't, but this symbiosis of what's happening here is happening. You could see over there too, because you got I don't know if you heard of the Young Turks before. They're like a online progressive online news network. They teamed up with the Lincoln Project. I don't know if you heard of the Lincoln Project either. They're a conservative media. They're doing commercials together. They hate each other. They have producers literally have gotten in fist fights with it, but they're working together now to get rid of old Orange Boy. So and it's great. Their commercials are fantastic. So I like teaming up with you, man. I hope this works out even better, man.
As far as that's concerned, it doesn't matter what you're for; it's who you hate. That's what binds people together.
Sadly.
Yeah, but but look, the tactics that you're bringing to the table is not tactics at the progressive side. They wouldn't think about doing things like that, man. And they see the other side doing it all the time, and they just ignore it because they know it's not true. They don't care. But it works to that group that's in the middle, that doesn't know, that just hears things here and there on the fly. It gets them. And so we really need to start employing some of that strategy, man. So,
well, Shankar,
what I love about listening to some of the people speaking on this is that you do, all of you have a genuine, desire and will for the California to leave the United States. What I bring is I believe California could. I believe they could vote for it. And I believe it could work. but I'm not from California. I don't believe that this isn't something I've been born into, kind of to believe that this is what I really want.
I don't care. Just tell us.
It's a campaign I believe in, and I think it could happen, and that's what gets me motivated. But what I bring to the table is tactics that I bring to win. That's what
Hell yeah.
I like to win. That's the point of this. Is where you might believe, I'm doing this because you love California. I'm doing this because I love to win.
If we can go back to my proposal, what my proposed strategy was, in fact, what you were talking about. That on the one hand, we need to get everyone to know about California independence. On the other hand, we can raise funds. They're considered charitable deductions in America to get out the vote. So that was the strategy I had, and also in your case, I got that you could work with conservatives in Britain who just want to get Donald Trump in, and they want to bring back the Reagan-Thatcher era of stable relations over the Atlantic.
In Britain, we don't believe Trump to be Reagan-Thatcher.
Let me
Are you serious? No,
Yeah, your guy kind of looks like Trump
Marcus,
too.
let me ask this. What is it you just said?
In Britain, in the Conservative Party, we do not. From my colleagues in the Conservative Party, we do not believe Trump to represent the Reagan-Thatcher era.
That's my point. That you would like to have, right? That's my point exactly. I always thought to myself that in Britain, if you're a conservative, it's always 1938, and Chamberlain is coming back in Croydon Airport with a piece of paper in his hand, right?
Absolutely.
You see yourselves as Winston Churchill. You want to stand up against aggression, especially by the Russian bear, and that's why I thought that this was something that, in a way, you see how you can take all three pieces, put them together, and have a workable campaign from your perspective. Working with the conservatives, getting that message out to get rid of Trump, but also at the same time to use the California independence movement to do it. Because I'll give you one little number. Marcus, I'm going to point out to right now, he told me this. He said that 65% of Americans say that if Donald Trump is reelected, they're going to be, quote, very upset. But yet Donald Trump is only behind Biden by about 9% at best. So where's this other 10%? Are they not registered to vote? Are they been disqualified somehow? Or are they simply somehow not registered to vote and don't feel motivated to vote? So they're motivated enough to be very upset if Donald Trump gets reelected, but they're apparently not enough to do anything about it. I put it to you that we can increase that by getting people to think, oh my God, if I don't vote, look what's going to happen. In a way, basically flipping that around. What Donald Trump says, if you don't vote for me, disaster, right? Right? Antifa is going to take over. The blacks are going to move into your neighborhoods and whatever. That's what he's basically trying to get. It's not working, of course, but he's using fear. I'm saying basically we use fear to get the vote, and I don't, and by because it's effective, guys. Christian knows this, right? Fear is the most effective motivator to get people out to get politically active. Sadly, but true.
I think people that have never voted before are going to be voting in this election, and people that never voted before are never going to vote in this one either.
Well,
the ones that are going to go and vote are probably going to go and vote this time, and that's it.
Well, people have been saying that every election for the past 50 years is people have been.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, every vote, whether it's a presidential, Congress, fucking referendum, every single political leader has said we're going to get people to vote who have never voted before, and unfortunately, it never happens. But in what I believe for Californians, I think that probably could be a good thing. Is the people who are dead against California leaving, the last thing we want them to is actually vote for the first time.
Hey, have you been here before?
Okay, let me talk. Thank you, everybody. Just want to jump in here real quick. So, a couple people haven't been heard. We're having a great marketing discussion. This is why Christian is here. The questions that Hannah's asking, and really Shankar, you have zoomed in great, and also Professor Williams. So, from people we have not heard from, marketing questions, not what do I think about Brexit and English politics? Marketing questions to sell Calexit, because we have a marketing expert on the phone right now. So if you have marketing questions, Jason, Professor Williams, Matt, and Joe Payne, marketing questions. Handshake,
I have
but
I
let's keep
wanna
it
give
one
the
quick
voice.
question, please.
I want to give the voice to Joe because he was next on the agenda. Joe, any questions you want to ask? If you can tell Christian a bit about your PAC, what you're doing, so he gets the background of it and see how he could help you in your campaign. So, floor's
Hey,
yours.
Joe.
Yeah, so Christian, nice to meet you. My name's Joe. So I started a political action committee recently, and the idea behind our organization is that we want to take the anger that America has towards California and kind of use that against them. So anywhere you go in the United States, especially in the South, if you ask them about California, they kind of have a negative view about it. They really don't like California. They want us to go. So my thought was, okay, let's use that against them. Let's have them put their money where their mouth is. So we came up with a political action committee to go out and reach those people and ask them for their help in kicking us out. And, we can sell shirts, we can ask for donations, things like that. We just formed the political action committee, and we're in the process of getting the bank account going and all that stuff so we can get going. The questions that I have for you is, okay, you said that you're looking at data that we're giving to you and you're recommending a strategy. How detailed is that strategy? What does that entail? And what exactly would be a kind of a typical plan that you might roll out?
The detail of the strategy depends on the detail of the data. Whatever you give me is exactly what I can give back to you. I've gone from I've had members of parliament ask me, what do you think I should do? Should I resign from my position in cabinet because I don't like the direction they're going? And I can write a 10-page dossier on what I believe they should do. And then I've had campaigns like Vote Leave, where I've worked for 6 months running a campaign for an entire area of the United Kingdom. So it depends entirely on the data I'm given of how involved you'd like me to be.
Can you mute me? Sorry.
How familiar are you with the California and U.S. like politics and law?
I am somewhat familiar. I did an undergraduate degree in politics, of which a large amount of that was US politics.
Okay.
When it comes to the actual succession of California, that's after the vote. That's got nothing to do with me. That's, once you get California to vote for it, it's up to Congress, it's up to the lobbyists, it's up to them to actually make this go through. So when it comes to law, it's not necessarily something I'm an expert on. I've been invited back after a campaign, so obviously it was after Vote Leave, Brexit wasn't actually followed through on for ages. The Brexit party was formed, and they asked me to come back and help them to kind of push the government into actually doing what they said they would do. But I did an undergraduate degree in politics. When it comes to learning the law and the politics of each individual country, even if it's something I don't know, it's something I become familiar with fairly quickly if I need to.
Right. Okay. Do you work with the team, or is it just you? How quickly can you get a team up and going, or yourself up and going, and able to get to work?
It depends entirely on what the campaign requires. So I've in the past, when it comes to when I worked with the Conservatives last time, we had a team in Runnymede that came in, took over the entire infrastructure and implemented the plan. Whereas when I worked on marketing campaigns, the Ministry of Defence, it was just me. They brought me in to advise on their campaign. I don't know the level that you're currently at. Obviously, there's different organisations, different regions working together at the moment with Yes California and Independent California. I know you're all trying to work off Independent California, but when I first came into it, I didn't know about the different factions. It's wherever you're looking to set up an office, I don't know what level of involvement you're asking from me yet. Like I said, this is my first call with all of you.
Sure.
if you'd like me to set up a larger structure for you, it's something I could look into, but it's not something I'm going to promise. Usually I go into a campaign that has some level of infrastructure already going. I'm not used to, I don't usually set up, I come in to take a campaign that isn't working and make it work.
Okay.
Could you make a proposal in terms of setting up, say, a budget of what you think would be required or what you could best be utilized to our advantage?
Those are two different things. I could certainly look into setting up a proposal for a budget, but I could and then obviously what you think would work for your advantage. Those are two different things, but I could absolutely look into doing both of those. They're the two things that come under what I would normally do.
Now, are you going to be?
What, Joe?
Now, are you going to be more helpful in, let's say, for my our PAC, for example? We have two big things that we would need to do. Is one is get donations from the people in the red states. Two is to make ads and send those ads out to people in California, you know, asking for their support in the actual vote and in the movement itself. Where do you think your strong suit is going to be? Is it more towards the marketing and advertising, or is it more towards getting donations in?
Well, typically those come hand in hand. It's the more you market, the more you fundraise. I don't know if you're familiar with the Give a Dollar campaign. These are very, very famous amongst US politics uses it a lot, but it's all over the world. Is if you can get a volunteer, a fundraiser, or a voter to give $1, they are more likely to actually follow through with campaigning and actually voting. And so they come hand in hand. If you can ask someone, please vote for us, and they say, yeah, absolutely, I will, it doesn't actually mean they're actually going to go and vote. They might get lazy on the day and not do it. If they've given $1 and they feel, just from $1, they feel they are part of a campaign, that means so much more to them. They feel they're part of something, they will actually go and do what they say to do. And so raising funds and marketing are, as far as I'm concerned, the exact same thing. Is the only difference with fundraising is when you look at large-scale donors, which is something I consider completely separate. What we used to do in the UK is we take large donor dinners, bring in, you know, what your Silicon Valley type investors, and bring them into these private functions and get them to empty their pockets.
Right.
with actual donations from the members of the public, in reality, we're not actually looking to fund a campaign from individuals. The money we take from them won't go as far as the Silicon Valley billionaires' money will, but the money from them will engage them enough into the campaign to make them really work for us.
Okay. And then my last question is, briefly, what is one thing that we can do to get politicians up in Sacramento, that's our state capital, to react to us in a positive way?
One is, if you believe that, I don't know about the upcoming elections in California, whether you've got local elections going on. What we do normally is we convince politicians that we are what's best for their individual campaign. Not usually the other way around. Politicians are fickle people. I used to be one, obviously, Hannah mentioned earlier. That was more of a campaign as opposed to a political side of me, but politicians couldn't give a shit about any campaign other than their own. And in reality, if we convince them we're best for whatever they're going to achieve, and that in reality, if they believe, it was the Gwyneth Paltrow, Marcus was talking about it earlier, the politician is, you know, she only mentioned Yes California because she thought it would help her run for president.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is when you're asking for politicians to get on board, if you can single out politicians who see advancements in their careers coming soon, and you can get them on board because you believe you can, you know, elevate them to that stature, then that's the best way to go about it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I have a question for you, Christian, that you just touched upon. What do you think as far as California, the campaign? Would you rather focus on the Silicon type, big donors, grassroots, $1, or both? What do you think? Should it be a comprehensive message that you're gonna market to the wealthy in California, to the average, or both of them, or do you choose one or the other?
For me, usually you tell the grassroots, you tell the people who are actually the mass majority of voters, they are the ones running the campaign. You tell them their donations are making the big difference. They're the ones. But in reality, we know it's the Silicon Valley donors who are going to make the biggest difference. As long as both sides believe they are in control and they are running the operation, then you keep everyone happy. Because the Silicon Valley, in reality, their money is what will win the campaign, but it's the grassroots votes that will win the campaign. So you've got two sides. You need money and you need votes, and both sides can't do both.
So you would do both, and then you'd still market to the wealthier segment of Californians also?
It would be on an individual basis. Obviously, the larger donors you go to on a person. You bring the politicians in, you bring the smoozers in, you take them to what we call donor dinners, and you make them empty their pockets. But in reality, the large marketing on the TVs and everything, it's all about grassroots. It's all about the people. And then we tell the donors, Silicon Valley, off TV, we tell them, look, in reality, you're the ones running the campaign.
Do you think you would be effective in dealing directly with those potential big donors?
Absolutely. There's no better way to get someone to empty their pockets and tell them they are the reason we are running.
And I think the fact that a non-American could actually be an advantage because it would show international involvement.
Well, I apart from the one campaign which Hannah touched on earlier, where there was no one else willing to take on the role to really aggressively market it. I have always been the background. I pull the strings from behind the scenes, which occasionally, when it comes to the big donors, works because I can bring that level of kind of political background knowledge to the donors, and I'm also very good at telling people what they like to hear. But when it comes to the larger majority of donors in a public arena, that wouldn't be me. I would be happy to advise on how to do it rather than be the person to do it. The last thing you want is a foreigner running a California campaign.
No, but I'm saying in terms of individual private conversations.
Absolutely, that's fine. But as soon as the media pick up on a foreign or on a non-Californian running a California independent campaign,
I wouldn't feel so strongly about that. I mean, I should remind you, I've had 40 years experience in politics. So, and this is California. You're an Englishman, and that English accent is actually privileging in our country. So if you believe it or no, deserve it or not, but that's the way it is. I mean, I would say that as far as Walter asked about getting the support of politicians, this is a little bit off, but I had suggested about the Protect the Vote campaign. Do you guys know about, have you read the email I put out? I said, you guys just send your emails, and Protect the Vote is a national coalition, and they want to make sure that they're starting a campaign to make sure that all the votes get counted. It's a little bit like Florida in 2000, but 50 states. And my feeling is that if you guys all get involved in your own local communities in this Protect the Vote campaign and get us and be aggressive in pushing yourself to the forefront, then you can steer these demonstrations in California to effectively protect the vote, to also be at the same time, oh, and by the way, sign this petition to make California independent. And also, by doing this, you will control the anger that's going to be unleashed by Donald Trump intentionally in November and December of 2020. And I can tell you that if you really want to get politicians to love you and listen to you, it's actually to be the person who is keeping the whole place from breaking apart, for controlling that tension. Create the tension, but control it, and they will love you because they'll almost owe you their office.
I know you're coming after my own heart. It's exactly what I've been preaching for a long time.
Really?
Thank you.
Great. Great.
Thank you. And
Kristen,
that's how Harvey
Kristen,
Milk was popular in San Francisco, believe it or not, because you know he led. Look, watch the movie. You'll notice it, right? He's a leader in the gay community, in even before he runs for city supervisor, because you know, and politicians are like, wow, you're keeping all these people both motivated and involved, but you're keeping them from being violent. And I'm telling you that this is what you should all say, even if you say, oh, I can't do this, you can do this. Because, and it's a great time to step forward right now because Protect the Vote is looking for people all over the country. And all you got to do is put your name, your email, and your phone number, and then say, click the box. It says, yes, I will organize these demonstrations in my town. I'm trying to get in control of San Diego. But there should be somebody in LA
okay.
for sure.
Okay,
Okay.
Anna, we're
Okay.
kind of getting off the topic. I
Yeah,
want to give people that haven't been able to talk. Jason's raising his hand. Then Matt, I'm going to go to you, and then Sue. And please, guys,
Marketing questions.
interrupt.
Marketing questions. Marketing questions. Marketing questions.
Yes, and we're going to Jason, Matt, and Sue. And please, in between, you can wait for your questions after that. Okay, thank you. Jason, go ahead.
Okay, first off, is my audio still working?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, Christian, I had heard you state some stuff that I've been kind of trying to hammer home for the last couple of months of like, find this person's issue when you are face to face with the person. Sorry, apologies, Hannah. When you're face to face with a person, you find the issue for them, what matters to them, and you try to, for lack of a better term, sell California independence as the solution. My classic example thing is that I say, you know, California produces so much goods, agricultural goods, you know, so much food that could be going around the world helping to, you know, take a bite out of world hunger. The Fed sets the price for California goods, for all of the goods in America. So California doesn't get to make sure that it's a fair market price. And so a lot of our goods don't get sold on the market. They end up as USDA goods paid for by the feds, but a penny or two on the dollar that they were worth. So ultimately, at a very significant loss, we give it over to the Fed, and then they distribute it to hungry people here, which is kind of good. But so my thing, my question is, how can we go about, because I'm good at searching out for like facts and data, you know, information and stuff, but how can we go about compiling some very clear, easy to digest figures for people so that, you know, if they say world hunger is their issue, we can say, gee, California could do this for world hunger if it was independent. Right now, under America's boot, you know, it's the same old, same old. But in independent California might be able to do something. You know, international relations and, you know, providing aid, you know, to people around the world when they need it, like Haiti and, you know, Australia's wildfires, California wildfires, or wildfire fighters went over to Australia and helped out. Not something a lot of people ended up talking about. So how might we go about compiling all of this into something very easily digestible so that I don't end up rambling on for 20 minutes to every single person?
Right.
I say it's brilliant. Yeah, that's a fantastic kind of way to look at a campaign, I'm totally on board. I think we've been talking about the exact same thing for all evening, afternoon for you guys, I suppose. Is if you talk about waste and administration, the best way to do it is, look, we spend XYZ currently, let's do this instead. So it talks about the status quo of what we should, at the very basic, what we could be doing, cutting out the waste. And you're saying, they give it out cheaper. Well, yes, but essentially what that comes down to is an administrative waste and an administrative cost. So the fantastic messaging to use has always been is we give XYZ to the US government. We should be giving it to these people instead at a fraction of the cost. And it's a simple message. It's like, Marcus is going to tell me off after this, I'm sure. He's been...
No, I love it. I love it.
He's been telling the rest of you off all night, saying, please stick to marketing questions, no questions about Brexit, but I'm sure I keep bringing it back to Brexit anyway.
You can say whatever you want.
Well, yeah, thank you. I'll try and keep it PC at least.
You don't have to. Hey, I apologize to everybody. I know I get a little worked up. Christian, I'm just trying to appreciate your time. And Daniel's pointing out we're running out of time. And everybody, you can email Christian after. I just thought, look, folks, we got a marketing professional here. We're stepping up.
No,
marketing professional came out. We got Christian here. Like, let's soak it up, man.
All I was going to say is I apologize for keeping it back to Brexit, but the idea is when we were talking about the administrative waste of we're spending 350 million a week on our membership of the European Union, which regardless of whether or not that was true, and let me tell you, it's not true, but that was the campaign, that's what they said anyway, is we spend 350 million, let's spend it on our NHS instead, which are our national health system, let's spend it on our fucking hospitals instead. And that is the best way to go about any kind of marketing, any sort of kind of campaign strategy when it comes to administrative waste. This is how much, and you give it a raw figure. And I was in the office when this got said, right? Dominic Cummings walked into the main office and he announced to the room of campaign advisors, campaign analysts, everyone, and he said, how much do we give the EU a week? Whoever comes up with the biggest fucking number wins. Right?
So,
and that was the idea. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Whoever can justify their number, that wins. Okay, so we will say, look, this is how much we give a week. This is how much we could be giving to our own people instead. And
Christian, our number is $80 billion annual, so you know that.
Well, anyone else on this call can come up with 100 billion, then they win.
No. 80 billion is fine. The trouble is the number goes up and it goes down every year and all the rest. But net, that's net. $80 billion comes from California, goes to the United States of America. Even though our fraction is very small because of our enormous population, we are the largest donor to the United States government. So I like to call them deadbeat states, especially in Dixie. But so I'm going to first thing I'm going to say is now that's what question I was going to ask you. You're telling me that the battle bus, the 35 million pounds going to to save the NHS kind of thing, that was the most effective argument in your opinion in the Brexit campaign by far, because that was the media's impression that the battle bus was really effective. And maybe Christian, you could tell everyone what the battle bus was.
Absolutely. So the battle bus was essentially it was a bus that went literally a bus that toured the country with this massive slogan on the side, and they use battle buses in general elections, local elections. So many of them are used where they'll have loads of volunteers get on the bus. They'll go to these key battlegrounds. And they'll get 40 volunteers off the bus to go and talk to voters. And on the side of it will be a massive slogan for whatever party, campaign, whatever they're saying at the time. And on this one, it was, we give 350 million a week to Brussels. Let's spend it on our NHS instead. And that worked so well. It gave the people a figure. It gave them one figure and said, in politics, 350 million a week is not a lot of money. It's not at all. But to an average person who might be struggling to feed their family, who might be struggling to pay their bills, 350 million a week is a lot of fucking money. And so when they saw this massive figure, that in their mind, we're telling them that gets wasted, okay? Because we're not actually getting any of that money. That's what we're telling these people.
That's what we're telling DOJ. Marcus, can you show Christian the two posters I've made for you?
Yes. While you guys continue to answer questions, I'll go show them that.
Because he'll want to see this. These are more graphics that I've created, and you're gonna love the red one.
Great.
But
Let me cut in here, Christian, since on that point, that's exactly what this movement has been doing with the 80 billion taxes. We always say, look, California has homeless, has infrastructure that's crumbling. This, instead of giving it to these deadbeat states, or maybe not that messaging, but instead, if we kept it to us, we could do much better, and that's going to take an independent California to do that. So we point out the negatives of our state. For example, children, in cages on the border. Okay, that's the federal government imposing that on California. If we were to be independent, we could deal with that. And most Californians are against, the kids in cages and stuff. So basically, the strategy is being, we have problems here. There's a lot of homeless, people can't afford housing. By having an independent California, we can fix this problem. Is that a good strategy?
Absolutely. Obviously, there's a distinguishment. You keep talking about deadbeat states, and obviously, I appreciate you said you might not use that terminology. If we were to say we give 350 million to Poland, Lithuania, people might be a bit more sympathetic because they look at these countries and go, okay, maybe they might need the help. But when you talk about, okay, we give 80 billion a year to deadbeat states, that might not work. So obviously, they're saying, look, these states need help. When you talk about waste is the biggest one. Is because when you say this money is going to somebody who needs it, that doesn't work because these states might need the help. When you say you're spending 80 billion going to Washington, which is the pin-up girl for administrative waste in the US, that's when you really, that's when you can really drive home and say, look, it's 80 billion not to help people, to just be wasted on, Trump flying around in, Air Force One, and it's being wasted on cages on the border. It's being wasted on a border wall. This
right. So I want you to understand one thing
Really
before
great.
you begin, that BREXIT has one huge difference from Calexit, and I want everyone to be focused on this. And the simple fact is, in Great Britain, before BREXIT, you didn't have a lot of people identifying as European Union citizens.
No.
It was, right, you're British.
Absolutely.
Right? It's another triumph of Great Britain, right?
Well,
and
the people who voted Remain never considered themselves British. They would consider themselves
because of English. But remember, the point is, you didn't consider yourself EU citizens. I know there was some talk about blue flags with yellow stars, but nevertheless, the EU flag your identification is Britain. In the United States of America, even in California, most people say they're American. And that is the hugest problem. I always remind people, the 4th of July is still a very popular holiday in California. We have that is maybe the reason why I sort of put my hopes on the United States collapsing on its own, because it's going to be very hard to. I hope you realize that is the most important of all. We have to get people to break away their identification. But yes, Marcus is showing you the red sign. I hope you get a good chuckle out of that, because I'm sure you realize exactly what that's inspired by. And of course, in our country, believe you me, the keep calm thing really took off in the United States. I'm using it in many things, but there it is. I created that. And also, I did create the America is Sinking. He's got a big version of that as well. That poster. Boy, it's like he's doing mime over there. But I would say, now imagine this on the side of a bus.
Well, you just kind of mentioned the idea of Americans considering themselves American. And whilst I might dispute the fact that before the European Union referendum, a lot of British people never considered themselves British or English or whatever, they just considered themselves citizens of the world, maybe not European, just they didn't like Britain, and that's why they became European Union supporters. You talked about specifically Californians identifying as American. And I think the really, really important thing there is to identify why they consider themselves American. Obviously, there will be a reason, whether it's because they support, kind of troops, or they support kind of democracy or isolationism, whatever it is they support about America. Whether or not they realize why they support America or why they consider themselves Americans, it's important to identify why they do. And then from there, you can kind of bring that argument into the Californian fold and say, look, we appreciate you consider yourself American because you really support the troops, but Californian independence supports the troops. And that's how you can get behind that.
It gets a little deeper than that. I mean, frankly, the phrase, and I know you haven't heard it before maybe, but it's the mystic cord of memory that stretches from every patriot grave to every battleground will once again stir in hearts support for the course of union. That's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. The mystic cord of memory is what really binds Americans together. You know, it's Marines going up the flag at Iwo Jima. It's Martin Luther King and you know, it's saying I have a dream. It's Neil Armstrong on the moon. Okay, it's a very long history of Americans have got. And most Californians think of themselves as being members of a state which is a member of the most wonderful country in the world.
But you've identified the problem fantastically. If you've just mentioned three things there, the Martin Luther King, landing on the moon, and the Patriot, you have mentioned exactly what I would suggest that potentially is why you like America. Those sort of things. Those are the first things that come to your head when you think of America. It's about many people who do not kind of follow politics or engaged in politics, as the people on this call, might not be able to come up. If you ask them why do they consider themselves American, would not be able to come up with a fantastic answer as yours. But it's about it's about finding what that answer is for that individual person and making sure they believe an independent California meets those standards. Because you talk about kind of the landing on the moon. You don't necessarily have to erase history to make the future. And that's the kind of message that, you say you are still American if you're Californian when it comes to landing on the moon, supporting the troops. It doesn't have to be either or. So,
Marcus, it sounds like he was going to that, remember that radio ad, the We All Love Our Uncle Sam ad? You don't know about this, but America, we portray that I wrote an ad, Christian, for radio, and I actually voiced it as a demo to say it basically portrays the United States of America as like a drunk uncle who needs an intervention to get into rehab. And you got to tell him, if you don't change, I am leaving you. And it says, we all love our Uncle Sam, but Sam needs help.
Yeah, I think a major way to approach this would be to say that the United States government is abandoning those very values that we consider most important.
Right.
That's a good point too. And I'll make the point within our movement, Christian, that we've all talked about this, is that we portray ourselves, we see ourselves, unlike Hannah saying, she still has those ties with America, but we see ourselves as Californians. Meaning if we go to Europe, we go to England or something, somebody asked us, where we're from, we're not going to say we're American. We're going to say we're Californian. We see a distinction, a huge distinction now between America and California. And that's kind of a marketing message that possibly you could help us with to switch the identity of Californians from American to Californian, because they already have that in them. We have very different values. And like you said, to point out that, why do you like America? And most Californians will say, well, I like that, but it'll be something they like about California, not America specifically. So to switch that identity to California, going, oh, that's right, I am Californian really more than American, right? What do you think of that messaging?
Well, I hope that's what you understood from what I was just trying to say to Hannah. Is exactly that is. You do not have to be either an American or a Californian to support California becoming an independent state. If you could, I am British, but geographically I am part of Europe. I am a European, not part of the Union, but I am a European. You will still be part of Northern America. You will still be part of, inside the quarters of the United States. And you can support what the United States does. When it comes to landing on the moon, it was Californian science, it was Californian money that paid for that happening. But we do not have to be together to remain united. And I think that's the important messaging. Is we're not one does not mean that we are different. We are not against each other.
Great.
Okay, let me jump in real quick. I got to go in about 10 minutes, but Sue Hirsch and Matt Owens.
Sue left, I think. Matt
asked the question.
Matt's there's Matt.
You're the only one Sue left, so it's
Yeah, she got
Marketing
tired.
question.
She has fatigue
Yeah,
issues.
I'm getting there. Well, as far as the national identity goes, there never was a EU national identity. As a matter of fact,
That's my
sovereignty
point.
was never transferred to the European Union. Okay.
But it was kind
And
of
even within
was.
the UK, of course, there are separate national identities, aren't there? Okay, there's English, Scots, Welsh, Northern Irish.
Question.
But
Question.
basically, looking at the formation of a California national identity, it's in there. It just has to be awakened, you know. Let me tell you about some of my various experiences in various zones, if you would, of California politics. One is what I call the Oz, the occupation zone. It's solid Trumpster places, and they're 100% USA American. And boy, you better not say anything to the contrary. Okay, I've been to some of those places. For somebody like me, pretty scary. Then just yesterday, I came up to what I call the LZ, that is to say the liberated zone, East LA, but not liberated for or by us. Liberated for or by something called Aztlan. What's Aztlan? That's the former northern Mexican territories, which there are people there that have been campaigning for 30, 40 years with little headway beyond their core constituency to reunite with the Mexican Republic. Their political project kinds of competes with ours. But like I say, they've been at it for decades and decades and decades, and they've got their own liberated zones, and that's about it. That's all they've got. Ours is growing leaps and bounds. Okay, ours is growing leaps and bounds. As far as grassroots versus, big donors, well, we have a rather, speaking of grassroots, we do have a rather large industry which is under direct threat from the U.S. And that, of course, is the cannabis industry, speaking of grassroots. So that is like a gold mine for us, not just in terms of defending that industry directly from a U.S. threat, but also the fact that we have, instead of universal health care, we have what we have from the U.S. and the parameters, and it's being fought over and all this sort of thing. We do not have universal health care. We do not have what you're defending, or
Matt,
a lot of
Matt, is there a
Britons
question?
are defending.
Matt, get your
Matt,
question.
is there a question? Is
My
there a
question is
marketing
this.
question?
Well, in the case of, the who were for EU, they could never make that into a national identity, which is why the referendum for Constitution felt they never got Articles of Confederation. Now, my question then would be, how can we succeed where the folks who wanted to transfer
Hello?
He froze. So there was sort of a question there. Matt, are you there?
No, he
Okay.
froze. Christian, did you get your email address?
I did. I can put it again if you like.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, look, and everybody can follow up with Christian, and you can talk to him personally. Be nice. If someone's not nice.
You don't have to be nice. I work in politics. I'm used to nasty.
Okay. Everybody who I introduced Christian to, I'm asking you to be nice. And I'll talk to you if you're not nice. I understand Christian's being very nice to everybody here. He's my guest. We brought him here. Be nice. You can ask tough questions. I thought some of you were doing really great. And folks, did you see how we had a serious high-level marketing debate? Wow. Awesome. The level of dialogue. So Daniel, I got to go in 5 minutes. Is there anything you want to cover? And then let's have Christian talk for the last 2 minutes to say whatever he needs to say on how to contact him or opinions.
I'm
Is that
ready
cool,
to
Dan?
close it. I have to go too. I'm ready to close it off and have Christian just say.
All right, let's just go to Christian. Christian, 2-3 minutes, and then we'll end the session, and everybody can follow up with email. Christian, last comments, thoughts, sir? Thank you for coming out.
You're more than welcome. Honestly, thank you so much for having me. I loved this sort of session with people who are so kind of on the personal side of a campaign as opposed to a politicized. You obviously all genuinely believe in what you're campaigning for as opposed to just doing this for a job. And it really, really helps me to understand how to win by looking at how you guys personally engage with the campaign. It's been really, really brilliant to hear from all of you. Thank you. I love the messaging you have. I love you are all obviously very, very different ends of the political spectrum. You're not all kind of sort of aligned. It's fantastic. I love that's the best way to win a campaign, is when you can bring in every side of the political spectrum. And like Mark's been saying, I've put my email on. I've put it on a couple of times. It's the Gmail address. Feel free to get in touch, ask me any questions. Apart from anything else, I mean, if you email me, I'm just as delighted to be able to talk to you and understand your views on the campaign. It's not just a one-way dialogue. I'm very, very happy to speak to you guys as well. I've been learning a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Oh,
Thank
righteous.
you so much, Christian. And I'm going to let Marcus close it. Do you have any final words, Marcus, you want to say? You'll be the closer.
I apologize for my more aggressive direction of the meeting. Christian, trying to make sure that we soak up all the goodness you got. I love you guys. We all want this. Please ask Christian questions. I think I brought Christian on here so you could get to know him and see that real pros. I mean, obviously Christian's a pro, right? I think y'all saw that. So we got pros at marketing spending their time reaching out to Calexit and saying, I want to be part of what you're doing. Think about that. Professionals in marketing are reaching out to us because they think this is going to go off. So I don't know how to give you more inspiration than that. When people are spending their time from around the rest of the planet trying to reach out and say, hey, I want to be part of what you're talking about. Huge. We had Dewank Maharjan from India do the same thing. Dude isn't even here yet, wants to be on Calexit before we get going. We're growing faster. Joe Payne got that Facebook group up from 40 people to 150 in about 2 days. Google group's bigger than it's ever been. Commercial. Joe Matthews, Dan Walters, all these politicians and people and experts talking about our initiative. And the Young Turks. And we got a governor saying nation state. And we got, Jim Wonderman, one of the 100 most powerful people in California, spending an hour on this initiative. And Michael Feinberg, the co-party chair of the Green Party, spending time on this. And Alistair Caithness of the Libertarian Party. And so Christian is part of a larger phenomenon, folks. Why are educated, super powerful, well-known professionals spending their time talking to us? They never did that before. Maybe this is the time we go big. So please reach out to Christian, but also recognize this ain't no grassroots game anymore. We're big time now. We need to put on our big time britches and step up. And that means all of you are going to have to do things that are uncomfortable, called realpolitik, and doing things that it takes to win. Christian can help you get there, but I can't. You all are going to have to do it on your own. We have a bunch of different leaders. Don't wait, jump, and that's how we win. And I want you all to think, no, I can't prove it. But why do you think this ain't going to be the time we win? Based on what? We never had nothing this big. We never had this many politicians coming around, Young Turks, commercials, experts coming from across the seas, people joining our thing. It hasn't been this way in 2.5 fucking years. So this is the motherfucking time, and everybody needs to get that through their head. Big time. I'll leave it there. Love y'all. Mwah!
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Christian. Thanks again. And we send you California love from afar.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks so much for your time.
Very welcome.
See you, Christian.
Bye.
Be safe. I'll send you an email.